all you meddling kids, it's your girl Pammy Chanel back with another video. Recently in the news and on other YouTube channels, Carlee Russell's abduction has been everywhere. If you've been living underneath a rock, Carlee Russell called 911 on July 13th, claiming she saw a toddler walking alongside I-495 in Alabama on her way home from work. She told the dispatcher she was going to check on the child. She then got off the phone with the dispatcher and called her brother's girlfriend, and then she vanishes, only to reappear at her mother and father's house, claiming she had been abducted by a man with red hair and a bald spot in the back. There was also a woman who fed her cheese crackers and only touched her hair. She says she can't remember anything else that happened. She did have a cut somewhere on her face. Now, the police could not verify a child was ever wandering on the side of the road, but because police do investigations on the victim, because the first thing when it comes down to any type of situation where a victim has been abducted or has been assaulted, they're always going to check and see why this victim. So they're going to go into victimology and they're going to search the person's internet history. They're going to search their background, etc. And within searching her internet history, they found searches including how much do you have to pay for an Amber Alert? How old do you have to be to have an Amber Alert taken out on you? She also searched for a bus ticket to Nashville and the movie Taken, which, if you don't know, it is about two girls that get kidnapped, and I think their father has to come and try to save them. Now, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, because, I'm not perfect. This is just my opinion. This is a freaking hoax. A grown woman who just wanted to get away. This whole story really got me thinking of other hoaxes and how, we've gotten duped before into thinking that someone is in danger, and in actuality, it's a totally different thing. One of the first ones that comes to mind to me is the case of Tawana Brawley. It's because of her case Al Sharpton became a household name. So in November of 1987, when Tawana was 16 years old, she accused some white men of kidnapping her, essaying her, and keeping her for 4 days in the woods in New York. She was eventually found in a trash bag with racial slurs covered all over her. And when she was interviewed, she claimed that one of the assailants were possibly a police person or policeman. And so, of course, this got people circling around the police department, and it was already a lot of tension between the Black community and the police departments in New York, as is during that time. When she had her initial interview, she said that she was, like I said, SA'd, but then she said after they did the R kit that she wasn't SA'd, they only did other type of S things to her, whatever that means. Her initial story gained lots of notoriety. Even Bill Cosby offered $25,000 for a reward in capturing of the suspects in this case, which, with Bill Cosby's situation is kind of ironic now. Don King pledged $100,000 to her college education, and Farrakhan became very close with her. He held a march in her honor, and of course Al Sharpton became her publicist, so to speak. She even appeared in Public Enemy's video Fight the Power, so if you go watch that, you can see her in it. But now, after all this notoriety, a grand jury was held on October 6, 1988, and they concluded that she was not abducted and she was not assaulted. And they felt that because there was no evidence of any kind of essay from the R kit. They also felt like because she wasn't malnourished, she didn't have any types of signs of being out there for 4 days in the elements, no hypothermia, that there was no way she could have been kept for 4 days outside in, a wooded area with no kind of bruising, no kind of nothing. The racial slurs that were written on her were written upside down, and it made it seem like she had written it herself. And according to some of her classmates who testified, during the time that she was abducted, she was at a party. So the real tea is She had ended up going and being out with her boyfriend, and she came from a family that was very volatile and abusive. She had her mother and a stepfather. She had also been in trouble before for shoplifting, and her stepfather tried to, discipline her physically in the police precinct. It was a case of a young girl who didn't want to go home and didn't want to get punished. Now, I do not condone being abusive to your children at all. However, you do not take this type of manpower just because you don't want to go home. She could have went to any police department and let them know what was going on, and it probably would have been a better result for her. Now, today, Tawana Brawley is a nurse, and she has changed her name. In 1994, Susan Smith of Union, South Carolina became one of the most hated women in America when she accused a black man of stealing her car, kidnapping her two sons, Michael, who was 3 years old, and Alexander, who was 14 months old. For 9 days, people searched in vain for the boys. They even searched in my home state of North Carolina because a car similar to hers was spotted. In reality, Susan Smith had allowed her car to roll into the John D. Long Lake, drowning her boys who were strapped into their car seats. Now, there were two alleged reasons why she did this. First, she wanted to unalive herself and take her kids with her. Giving her the benefit of the doubt, she was suffering from mental issues because her family history was all kinds of screwed up, but that's for another video. And also, the other reason was because she wanted to get rid of her kids so she could be with a rich boyfriend. This was horrible, not only because she unalived her own children, but she had the whole nation by the heartstrings looking and praying for these boys, not to mention blaming a black man really angered the black community in her hometown and area because the composite sketch that she had given was so basic, pretty much every black man was a suspect. This case also made it so when a child is missing, the first suspect is the mother, and that possibly the mother can do or has done some type of harm to their kids. So now let's talk about the most stupidest hoax that I have ever encountered since I've been alive. And that is the alleged hate crime against Jussie Smollett. I can never pronounce his name right. It's Dave Chappelle's fault because now I'm always calling him Juicy Smollett. Okay, so basically what happened was on January 22nd of 2019, he got a letter from one of his Chicago studios that he was employed at. And the letter was addressed to Smollett, and it had a stick figure of a person hanging from a tree, and it also contained some white substance that turned out to be Tylenol. And in the letter, it says, Smollett, Jussie, you will DIE, and it said MAGA. Okay. Then on January the 29th, Smollett announced that he had been attacked earlier in the morning on the 300 block of East Lower North Water Street in Chicago, in what people thought was, a hate crime. He told police that he had been out going to Subway. Now, this is 2 o'clock in the morning. Subway subs are not that good. What you going out at 2 o'clock in the morning to get you a sub for? But he said that there were two white men and they were yelling out racial and homophobic slurs against him. And they poured some kind of unknown substance on him. They began to beat him in the face using their hands and their feet and their teeth as weapons, which is weird to me, but okay. And they wrapped a rope around his neck. And he fought them off, okay? So when I first heard about this, I was like, okay, what MAGA folks is out here wearing MAGA hats in Chicago at 2 o'clock in the morning committing hate crimes? But I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, a lot of celebrities came out and they were like, oh, we're going to support him. Oh my God, this is so bad. But for me and a lot of people that I know in the black community, we were very, very quiet. We didn't say anything about it because it didn't make any sense. Well, come to find out, the whole thing was made up. He had hired two Nigerian brothers, which I don't know how you get white men from Nigerian melanated men He'd hired them to come up with this whole scheme and to be the ones to attack him. Now, he still to this day says that it happened, but the evidence says that it didn't. And he was eventually convicted of disorderly conduct, having to stay in jail for 150 days, which I think was later dropped, and he had to pay restitution. When stuff like this happens, I get pissed because you're taking away time and manpower from another victim, for someone who's actually missing, from someone who really needs the help. When someone who's an adult goes missing, it's not always taken as seriously as when someone who is a child is missing. And we've had to fight hard for years so that parents can be able to go in and report their teenagers and actually have them listed as missing versus just having them listed as runaways. And things like what Carlee Russell and Tawana Brawley has done, those type of things make it look bad on people who are actually out here missing. Not to mention, we are in an big old epidemic when it comes down to human trafficking. And so it takes less focus off of the actual people who are really being trafficked. Now, in Susan Smith's case, instead of sitting up here lying about a black man kidnapping you and taking you in and taking your children, when she ran to the house to get help, she should have been running to the house to get help to get her kids out of the car. And Jesse Smollett, his situation is just a hot mess, and you threw away a great rising career just to be a fool. So my advice to people who do crap like this, don't do it, because you're going to end up getting caught. Your story is going to unravel and you're going to come out of it looking stupid. Well, guys, tell me what you think about this video in the comments. And until next time, stay nosy and stay meddling. Bye, guys.